first event in a while dedicated entirely to celebrating you, the donors, volunteers, partners, and friends who make our work possible. Your generosity and your belief in the power of the arts fuels everything we do. Some of you may remember the previous annual member update. We no longer have a formal membership program, but we absolutely wanted and needed a way to gather, recognize you, and say wholeheartedly thank you. Ovation is the beginning of a new tradition we hope grows every year. And of course, when you hear the word ovation, you think of a heartfelt, enthusiastic show of appreciation, the kind that fills a room after a truly great performance. So tonight, board and staff, please stand with me if you are able. And help give our donors, volunteers, committee members, and supporters the ovation they deserve. I'd also like to thank Destination Muncie for the always beautiful and delicious catering provided by Mare May's Bistro and Cornerstone for the Arts, where we can enjoy the dramatic murals around us by Gustav Brand. To begin our program, I'd like to introduce someone whose life reminds us that each of us contain multitudes. You may know him as Captain Wawa, Dr. John, or simply Doc. But his story is a powerful example of how one person's passion can reshape an entire community. Doc, the founder of Doc's Music Hall, was a driving force in the revitalization of downtown Muncie and nurturing the art scene. At a time when hope was dim, he created a place where musicians, artists, and dreamers from all walks of life could gather. His courage and creativity changed the trajectory of the city. And something many people don't realize, before he was a family doctor, Doc was a musician who performed as Captain Wawa. So tonight, we're especially honored to welcome the 2025 Mayor's Arts Awards Lifetime Achievement Award recipient, sharing his story from the beaches to the Beach Boys to Walnut Street. Please join me in welcoming John Doc Peterson.
I just said it. This is a little too much, I think, on this microphone. I'm used to working the mic, right? I just had a hip replacement 3 weeks ago. On the aging process. Yeah, so it's an honor to address everybody here because artists and musicians are the spiritual lifeblood of the community. Yeah. Everything starts here. And I think we realized that when I got together with this young group of musicians and artists in the early 90s and realized that they were an important part of the future of this community. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm getting a little bit of a rumble here. Is there a sound guy? Or should I just stay back a little bit?
There you go.
Okay, how's that?
Great.
Okay, got it. How many of you have heard of River City, Iowa? And the Music Man? Anybody heard of the Music Man? The Broadway play? Meredith Wilson wrote that, and I grew up in River City. I grew up in Mason City, Iowa, that is referred to as River City in the Music Man. chemistry professor at the local college, and my mother was a concert pianist whose first tour was canceled because of World War II. And then she became a music teacher and piano teacher and vocal music instructor. And she was good friends with Meredith Wilson, who went to the same church that we attended in Mason City. So Mason City had great music and appreciation for the arts. It's a little town, less than 40,000 people. Out of my high school of 1,500 students, 500 of us played instruments and sang in the choir. A third of the school. There was a special building that was just for music, a separate building from the rest of the high school. I played piano and trombone, and then later on went into playing orchestras, all-state orchestras, trombone. But growing up in Mason City, especially during the early 60s, this is when rock and roll started to really be an important part of our lives. And my sister, 4 years older, had all these 45s. Anybody had 45 records? Yeah. How many of you listen to AM radio? Woo! Yeah. And so I listened to these records, and because we had 2 pianos in the house, I would sit down and play along with the records. And then I'd turn on the radio and play along with the recordings on the radio. And started playing rock and roll, so at a certain point we started playing in bands. And by the time I got into high school, in 64, 65, and 66, we found some of the best musicians in the northern part of Iowa and started this band. And we played mainly Beatles songs and Rolling Stones. Yeah, Rolling Stones. Anybody like the Beatles? Anybody like the Rolling Stones? Usually it's 50-50, right? It's 50-50. Anyway, so because of my background, I did all the arrangements. I played piano. I assigned all the harmonies. We had a 5-piece band called the Pink Clef Quintet, PKQ. We grew in popularity, and at a certain point took on a manager who was able to get us a gig at Chess Studios in Chicago. How many of you know about Chess Studios? Yeah. Some of the greatest blues players that ever lived recorded there. And it was intimidating for a 17, 18-year-old to play at Chess Studios. But we played there, we took some doo-wop harmonies, added it to a Lou Rawls song, and ended up with a top 40 hit. It was called Walkin' Proud. It was #1 recording in Iowa for 20 weeks. And then it found its way to the West Coast, and it found its way to the East Coast, and then started coming back into the Midwest. And WLS, does anybody remember that station? WLS in Chicago. We thought if they would play it, it would reach the top 5 in the country. They decided not to play it, in spite of the fact that we recorded it in Chicago. If they had played that song on WLS, I wouldn't be here today. I'd be playing some bar in LA. Most likely bar in LA to this very day. But it was a great experience. And at that point, William Morris Booking Agency, who did the Tonight Show, they got interested in us. And they sent their representative from Chicago to hear the band, 5-part harmonies. He had discovered the Beach Boys, this guy. He says, you guys are the next Beach Boys. We thought, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. And anyway, for exposure for Walkin' Proud and for the band, he had us tour with all the great bands that came through the Midwest at that time. So we ended up doing tours with the Beach Boys, We were the backup band for Sonny and Cher. And we opened and played with the Doors. A little bit intimidating, especially the Chicago Opera House with the Beach Boys. Good Vibrations had just come out, and I think my legs were actually shaking before I went on stage. But then when we, click track, started up, then we were fine. Once we got into it, we were fine. So, but after that, I was never intimidated by much of anything. And ended up transferring to Grinnell College in Iowa with my wife. I had hair down to my waist at that point. And I thought, I love chemistry, I love biology. I'm going to apply to medical school. And all my professors said, you're just not the type. I said, I'm not. So I ended up going to the University of Iowa. I had an interview with the head of the psychiatry department. He said, all the applicants look good. You have good test scores. You had nice grades. Everything about you looks good, but we're only taking 1 out of 9 applicants. Why should we take you? And I said, you need somebody like me around here. And then he said, what do you do? And I said, my major lot in life is musician. I'm a keyboard player, composer, and arranger. And he said, what band do you play with? Tell me about it. Tell me about the recording studios. And I told him the story about it. And he said, PKQ, Pete Quintet. My son loves you guys. You won't believe that I'm talking with you today. And 2 weeks later, I got my acceptance. So anyway, finished medical school, come to Indiana to do my residency program here at the hospital. It was one of the best family medicine residency programs in the country. I was lucky to get in here. I was very lucky. And of course, after I got here, I started going to all the bars, clubs and stuff, and seeing who the musicians are. And after a few years, my good friend Phil Dunn, some of the black musicians in town, called me because they said, hey, I heard you recorded at Chess. You want to start a band? And I thought, I would never play again. I thought that was it. I would never make music again publicly. Never. And so I just didn't have the time, didn't have the energy, all that stuff. And so Phil called again, and he said, you want to start a band? I said, of course. And I've been playing professionally ever since then. So as we were playing, my son, who was an excellent musician, started meeting the younger musicians around. And in the early 1990s, some young musicians and artists approached me because I had contacts in the medical community and I had contacts in the artistic community. They contacted me about possibly starting a new venue. Something that would be accepting for them and all the unusual things that they wanted to do. I said, if there's a real interest in all this, I want you to meet next Wednesday at my house in the living room. And if there's enough people interested, we will look at this. We will do it. So I got home that day, and I walked into the living room, and there were 75 kids. They were packed in. And I said, I guess we're going to do it. And we're going to need a venue. But where? So we looked at the village, and I thought, nah, Fern Bars. Not what you guys are looking for. You're looking for the alternative stuff. Things that will really make a difference in the community. So we looked downtown. Downtown was desolation. I don't know if you remember the late 80s and the 90s. There was nothing going on. There were some jewelry stores and some attorney's offices. And the government. That was it. So there was this old shoe store in Walnut. And it had a little sign up. And some of the young folks who were in that COC group looked at that and they said, look at this place. And there were some dead pigeons lying on the floor, and dust and dirt. And there was a card that says, call so-and-so if you're interested. And so I made this call to some guy in New York. And he says, yeah, I'm glad you're interested. And I said, I want to rent this place. He said, oh no, we're not renting, we're only selling. And not only are we selling, but we're planning to tear the building down in 6 to 12 months. And I thought, this is a great building. You know, thick walls, you know, beautiful construction. I found out later from the professor from architecture that it was a very unique architectural building. And I said, well, how much are you asking for it? And he said, the amount of money that it would take to tear it down. And I said, how much is that? And he said, $35,000. And I said, would you take 25? And he said, yes. But I said, before you do that, I need to have my architects come and check it out. And again, there was this balanced A-frame architecture, which was built to withstand tornadoes. Because they didn't have the building materials that could do it, so they had to do it with architectural creativity, basically. So we ended up with this building. The COC group came in, they volunteered their time. Some of them lived there, but I didn't want to hear that. And the Full Circle Arts Co-op became the not-for-profit, and the COC Creative Opportunity Center was the entity. And that was the beginning of 20 years of creativity, evolution. I was so touched when the awards that Tania gave last month and the mayor, I looked at that group of nominees, and at least half of the nominees had gotten their start in the COC and Doc's music. Yeah, this was worth it. And you know, I get calls and letters and stuff all the time from musicians. We have over 10, I guess it was 15,000 artists and musicians who came through there. And people, they were called up saying, I'm now a studio player in LA. I just want to thank you for having this COC and Doc's Music Hall. So it was great, and it did start something. It did start something. So anyway, so that's a story. I've been involved with the arts community and playing, and now I have access to a really good recording studio. I'm putting out more albums this year. In 2012, when I sold the Doc's Music Hall to Stan at the Garage, there was a fun weekend. Grab, remember that? How crazy that was?
That's the farewell tour for
What was it?
the farewell tour for
Yeah, farewell. The never-ending farewell tour. The never-ending farewell tour. So anyway, so that was the beginning of a great story. There was a film that was made about it, a documentary film, Giving Up the Ghosts. It got international reviews. Still get it on Blu-ray. You can download it on Crackle. And then I put out a book called Rock and Roll Stories and Medical Stories called True Life Adventures of Captain Wawa. And I won't get into why I was called that. But I was. So anyway, thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this this particular ovation. And for the award, I was not really expecting anything like it. At the time we had Doc's Music Hall, I don't think anybody in the government liked me. jump into it. And she did great articles in the paper, really supported us. So it was really a surprise to actually be recognized by government entities. I love the arts, I love all of you, and I love Muncie. Thank you.
Isn't it incredible to hear that story? And who knew the Beach Boys were only one of the notable acts that you opened for? So, hello everybody, my name is Tania Said. I'm the Executive Director of the MuncieArts and Culture Council. You just heard from the Mayor's Arts Awards Lifetime Achievement Award recipient, and now we know why. 8 other awards were also given. It was a special night to herald the more than 20 nominees and recipients of the following awards: the Artist in the Community, who's Ashley Runko; Emerging Artist, Zach Moore, who's here tonight; Maker, who's Christiana Mann; Arts Educator, Lily Rawson; Arts Advocate, Graham Watson, right over here; Arts Leader, Mike Martin; the Corporate Arts Award recipient, which was the Muncie Children's Museum, with representatives here as well; and the People's Choice Award winner, Anwar Frazier. So I first experienced downtown Muncie as a middle school student and then as a Ball State student. So all those times that you were just talking about, Dr. John, of what it was like, it felt like an adventure coming down here, like you weren't supposed to really come to downtown. To see what it has become today, vibrant, creative, full of possibility, is truly inspiring. Doc, thank you for your vision, your music, and your belief in what a community can become. Our next speaker is someone whose leadership helped lay the foundation for MuncieArts and the arts community that we know today. Dr. Whitt served as the first president and CEO of Cornerstone Center for the Arts from 2004 to 2010. When I returned to Muncie in 2005, Cornerstone was a place I was pleased to see and experience, where my son and I shared wonderful memories, especially the kinder music classes we still talk about, and the Bollywood dance class I'd rather not talk about because I was so bad at it. Tonight, Dr. Whitt will tell the story of how the Muncie Arts and Culture Council came into being during Muncie's hosting of the Governor's Arts Awards in 2009, the year the Ball Brothers and George and Francis Ball Foundations were honored for their extraordinary impact. In addition to being a nonprofit leader, Dr. Whitt is a dancer, dance educator, singer, and most recently the director of Hairspray at Muncie Civic Theater. To share how the Muncie Arts and Culture Council came to be. Welcome.
Thank you, and it's so nice to be here again. It's almost like a full circle moment. When I first came to this building, we weren't allowed to come to this floor. Even though we owned the building at that time. I won't tell the whole story, but I will tell that I did push 3 and I came up to the 3rd floor to meet. And the rest is history. But it is an honor to be here, and I know that Tania has given me 5 minutes, and so I don't want to spend time talking about how Cornerstone was created. My job is to talk about the Muncie Arts and Culture Council. What I can tell you is that what Doc has shared about this community is something that bled into how we created this particular organization. And in 2004, the Americans for the Arts organization created this component in Arts and Culture Month, which is the month of October. And they created something called Creative Conversations. And that started in 2004. I came to this organization, which was MuncieArts and Building Foundation and Muncie Center for the Arts, merged together in 2004. And I took it upon myself as just the president and CEO to start a community conversation. There were so many people, different types of people coming into this particular building, and people that had an interest in the arts and culture, that I said, we should get together and just talk. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about. We didn't really have an agenda on that first meeting, which was in 2007, but I thought we would get together, and I thought a few people would show up, but there were about 30 people that showed up on the second floor, and I think we just had cookies. We didn't have a full lunch, but we had people that were there from First Merchants Bank, Old National Bank. We had someone there from the Community Foundation, from Trista. We had artists that were there. We had people that were part of the arts organizations that were housed in this particular building, and people that had an interest in the arts. And we just talked about the things that were happening in the community and how we could start doing more things together. I was called the Queen of Collaboration. And so they said, if anybody can do this, Terry could. Well, no, I just was the person that had seeds and was planting the seeds with some others who also had seeds and planted those seeds. Also in 2007, the Governor's Arts Awards were held every other year. And they were held every other year in the city of Indianapolis, in the state capital. And I was very involved with the Indiana Arts Commission because I read grants for them and just really enjoyed the people. So I did a lot of things with them. And I went to the Governor's Arts Awards that year in 2007, and I sat by myself in the theater, and I said, we could do that at Cornerstone. I mean, literally, that's all I said. So the next week, I called the executive director, whose name was Louis Rickey, and I said, hey, Louis, what do you think about moving around the Governor's Arts Awards? I think we could do something like that in Muncie. He says, that's a pretty good idea. And so he says, let me bring it up with my commissioners, and he brought it up with the commissioners. In the meantime, we were having more creative conversations throughout the end of 2007 and 2008. The commissioners decided that, yes, we think we will start moving around this Governor's Arts Awards so that the people can see different components, different parts of the state of Indiana. So we were one of 7 applicants, and we had to put together a proposal. Lynette Weitzel was always, Brett Ellison was our director of rentals and events, and I remember the day that he brought his letter of resignation to me, and I gave it back to him and told him that I was not accepting it. I made him stay for 2 more years. But we had such a good time putting together this application. Mayor McShirley was the mayor at the time, and she came with us for the presentation. Fred Reese was also part of that initial committee that came and gave the presentation, and we won the right to have the Governor's Arts Awards here. That gave us, yes, you should clap. So that was 2008 and the first part of 2009. Well, we needed a committee. We needed people throughout our community to say, yes, I will help. Community Foundation, Ball Brothers Foundation, George and Francis Ball Foundation, Trista, Vera Mays, all kinds of groups and organizations, artists that wanted to be a part of committees, helping us to design what this space would look like, what the program might look like. But we needed that group of folks that believed in our community. And those community conversation people were those people. And we stayed together. So after the Governor's Arts Awards in 2009, which I still believe was the best Governor's Arts Awards they had ever the best. After that particular event of our community that even mayors came to, we set it up so that Mayor McShirley could have mayors come the day before. They had a meeting and they did some things throughout the community to see our community, how wonderful it was, and how wonderful the people were. And it was this group of individuals that were a part of this creative conversation that happened starting in 2007. And we thought, you know what? We need to be official. We need to do something official. And so we thought about what we might name ourselves. And Muncie Arts and Culture Council came to mind, but people said, oh no, we can't be the MAC because that's Muncie Area Career Center. I still remember that. We said, no, we're our own entity. And we said, okay, so we have to put this together as a 501c3, and we need a board, and we need a chairperson. So we were planting these seeds. All of us were planting these seeds, and we needed someone to lead us. That first leader of the Muncie Arts and Culture Council was Jenny Gordy. And she was a strong leader, and she helped us to kind of form what it was that is today. And I could not be prouder of what Tania is doing as a paid person in this organization. It started as a conversation of community people that cared about Muncie and cared about arts and culture. So I say thank you to you, all of you. There's so many familiar faces in this room that have really planted your seed as a part of it. And we allowed ourselves to water ourselves and grow into what this is today. It really means a lot, not just for the city of Muncie, but it means a lot for East Central Indiana and for the state of Indiana. You did this. I just had some seeds in my hand and followed what Americans for the Arts asked us to do. They said, talk. So we talked and we realized that we liked each other and we had things in common and we had things that we could share and give and take to make us what we are today, Muncie Arts and Culture Council. Congratulations to you, Tania, and your board and staff. Congratulations on what is going to just continue to be an amazing, amazing organization for our community. Thank you.
Terry, thank you for planting those seeds so today we can all be here. Without those seeds, I don't know where this would have been. You heard about Muncie Arts and Culture Council's origin story. What you may not know is our reimagination process for the future of Muncie Arts. Our reimagination process is now well underway, and the momentum is very exciting. We've conducted more than 20 in-depth individual interviews with creators, cultural partners, and community leaders across Muncie. These conversations have surfaced a wide range of aspirations, challenges, and opportunities, helping us understand the creative ecosystem from multiple vantage points. The board is also engaged in an initial visioning workshop, laying the groundwork for the renewed sense of purpose and direction. We have also launched a national stand of peer organizations and comparable creative ecosystems to understand emerging trends, innovative models, and lessons learned from the field. This entire process remains intentionally anchored in the goals set forward in foundational community documents like the Creative Space Action Plan and the Muncie Action Plan. We are committed to making sure this plan is both forward-thinking and rooted in shared priorities. The next stages, we will begin synthesizing everything we've heard, identifying the core themes, strategic opportunities, and priorities areas that will shape the next phase of the project. And we'll be conducting focus groups of important groups for their perspectives too. Please see any of the board members or Tania to learn more. You met her earlier, but I want to share a bit more about the person guiding Muncie Arts into the future. Tania Said became our executive director in February, and we are so fortunate to have such an experienced, visionary arts leader at the helm. Tania previously served as the vice president of exhibitions and programs at Minnetrista Museum and Gardens. She spent more than 20 years living, working, and leading in the Muncie Arts world, from the David Owsley Museum of Art to Ball State College of Communications, Information, and Media, and consulting for other nonprofits. Before that, she built her career in Washington, D.C., supporting museums large and small, including the Smithsonian Institution. This has been a year of growth and transformation for MuncieArts, and there's no one we're more grateful for guiding us. Please welcome Tania Said for our 2025 organizational update.
Hello again. I want to thank you, Kim, and thank you all for being here. Kim is the owner of Trivia Showprint, a letterpress business in operation for over 145 years. So to have her as an artist, former art teacher, and business owner serving and leading as president is an outstanding match for MuncieArts. In fact, she and the other board members were the de facto staff at the end of 2024 when the organization was seeking a new executive director. Please help them around. I too want to thank our speakers for the enthusiasm and the creativity and ingenuity that you illustrated in our arts and culture community. Tonight, I want to share a brief update on what we've accomplished this year, too, and what lies ahead. I want to acknowledge the generous support that makes it all possible, including, through this year, we've received significant contributions from the Ball Brothers Foundation, the Indiana Arts Commission, the Community Foundation of Muncie and Delaware County, thank you, and so many of you here tonight. We continue to proudly be the city's arts partner and enjoy their partnerships, too. We are deeply grateful for your support. I also want to mention that all that reimagining that we're doing would not be possible without the Community Foundation and the Creative Action Plan that set in motion these possibilities for us. To work with a fantastic consultant named Eric Mulho from Bond Partners in Minneapolis. We have discovered all kinds of things that we didn't know or expect, and we are learning through all of it. It's been a really valuable opportunity, but insightful as well. Two other accomplishments. With your support and funds from the American Rescue Plan Act, 4 new murals and sculptural installations celebrating Muncie's artistic and community identity will be completed in the South Central and Whitley neighborhoods by next spring. We're also thrilled about our collaboration with Exhibit Columbus and the Landmark Columbus Foundation, the Ivy Tech Community College, Muncie, and Ball State's iMade program, resulting in Design by the Public by Tatiana Bilbao E-Studio, now on High Street at Ivy Tech's Fisher Building. More neighborhood-led projects are in the works, resulting in 3 more that will be installed in 2026 around the city. If you're keeping count, that's between this year and next year, 8 new public works of art.
Yes. Although the National Endowment for the Arts curtailed funding for our High Space Artist Residency program, we kept the spirit alive through our MuncieArts Spotlight, Dreaming with MuncieArts on First Thursdays, and a powerful community collaboration through High Space with enamelist and metalsmith Jessica Calderwood, who's right over there. Also interested in museum and gardens. In fact, her upcoming exhibition will feature photographs, stories, and handcrafted domes adorned with beautiful glass seed beads, celebrating the textile patterns of new Americans and immigrants in our community, opening this December. In fact, I'm excited to be included as well. Our building at 600 West Jackson Street remains a lively hub of activity as we work to raise more funds to renovate it. Thanks to dedicated board and community volunteers, improvements are steadily progressing for the space to be a resource for artists, neighbors, and partners. This year, the board and I also took time to ask an important question. What impact are we making? What impact is MuncieArts making? What do we want MuncieArts to be? What do we want our community to be through arts and culture? One answer, arts and culture in Muncie drives economic growth, strengthens community well-being, attracts visitors, and creates a more livable city. I keep talking about this, so if you haven't heard this yet, let me tell all of you, our county's arts vibrancy score is 84. That means we rank higher than 84% of counties nationwide, and we are just getting started.
So this is something that comes out annually, and you can bet we'll be checking that every year. So we're not done yet this year. You heard some of the plans from Kim. Stay tuned also for a year-end holiday potluck gathering for artists, creatives, makers, and friends. Next, I want to express my sincere gratitude to our board members. Please wave or stand as I say your name. Kim Miller, Board President. Michelle Kinsey, Vice President. Jennifer Johnson, Treasurer, couldn't be here today. C.S. Hendershot, Secretary. Kevin Klinger, who also couldn't be here tonight. Lexi Musselman, there you are. Zach Poor, who I mentioned earlier, and Carl Schaefer. Members, the flowers are for you, so please take one of those arrangements with you. We also have excellent volunteers on our building committee, communications and outreach committee, development and fundraising committee, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility committee, and of course the executive committee. So raise your hand if you're one of those volunteers too. I know I've seen a few of you at least. Wonderful, okay. With only 8 board members, their dedication speaks volumes. To each of you, thank you. I'm the only full-time staff member, so their help defines the well-known and the well-worn working board. Also, 2 new student assistants started this past September. If you haven't met Angie or Sandra, please make sure you say hello to them. There they are at the back. As part of the MuncieArts team for help with today's event and more. So the remarks have gone a little bit long and longer than I intended, but I want to cover a few more things. Looking ahead, we're preparing for new public art initiatives in celebration of America's 250th in 2026, Delaware County's bicentennial in 2027, and a citywide celebration of public art. Stay tuned for the focus group and invitations that Kim mentioned earlier too. Before I wrap up, I would like to introduce a new element of our programming, the Volunteer of the Year. This year, over 30 volunteers signed up to help Muncie Arts and Culture Council at events, improve our building with maintenance and landscaping, conduct outreach, and assist with office work and more behind the scenes, giving 200 hours. So, independent sector, which is a nonprofit group, they value that, and the dollar value on those 200 hours is $7,000. That's so far this year. So I'm deeply grateful. I also have one more thing related to our volunteer programming, and I want to make note and take a moment to recognize somebody very special. This year's Volunteer of the Year is someone I knew I needed to warn ahead of time. He is not a fan of attention, but he is a fan of helping. His wife, Laura, ran a nonprofit, so he understands that every dollar matters, every penny counts, and that volunteers often keep the wheels turning. He began volunteering with MuncieArts almost immediately after I started in February. One of our other volunteers noticed several of the Face Me Por Favor portrait panels from 2019 that was also part of a Fly Space project. Those near Cannon Commons had blown down. She reached out to his wife on my behalf, and he said yes without hesitation, bringing the right equipment and supplies to get the job done. It's possible he was voluntold, but still he showed up. Since then, he's also donated his time assisting the crew from Advanced Science and Graphics, where he used to work full-time, to help reposition Designed by the public art I mentioned at Ivy Tech, ready for the big reveal at October's Arts Walk. If you haven't seen how big the sculpture is, something the students who worked on it affectionately called Big Blue, you can see how reassuring it would be to have someone with the talent, tenacity, and experience of this volunteer. This award goes to someone I'm proud to know, a person whose kindness, humility, and genuine care for our community show up in quiet, consistent ways that matter most. Our 2025 Volunteer of the Year is Jeff Jennings. is the chairperson of the MuncieArts Development and Fundraising Committee and the secretary of the board. They are thoughtful and talented at this work and also the director of fundraising and development for Second Harvest Food Bank. Please join me in welcoming CS Hendershot, who I first had the pleasure of meeting through the Facebook platform.
I was looking at the remarks and I couldn't remember. I was like, was it the Facing Project or was it the Pejacucha series at the museum? That's what I stated. No. I'm going to go off script really quick here and just say, you know, as someone who came to Muncie in 2012 as a Ball State student and stayed ever since, I just feel so incredibly lucky to be part of this community and get to call Muncie my home. I really Tania, thank you for the wonderful update. It's truly been a busy year and a very productive year. As chair of the Development and Fundraising Committee, I work closely with Tania and our dedicated volunteers to ensure that our resources, that we have the resources that we need to support our programs and operations. One of our current priorities is the 2026 annual corporate sponsor program, and copies are available at the check-in table and on our website if anyone is interested. Tonight, though, is not about asking for support. It's actually really about recognizing your support and making sure that you feel informed and appreciated and connected to our mission. You'll also find our 2024 Impact Report at the table, and you're the very first to get to receive it. If you're not on our email list yet, please let Tania or myself or one of our wonderful assistants, Sandra and Angie, who you met earlier. And thank you, Tania, Sandra and Angie for helping make this event possible. I'd also like to add my appreciation for Destination Muncie, Vera Mae's Bistro, Brujos for the beverages, Robbie Melling for taking photos tonight, and Nick Engel for the beautiful music that he had earlier. I often say that I couldn't imagine living in a community without the rich arts and cultural offerings that we have here in Muncie. From our museums and theaters to our galleries and public art. And none of it would really exist if it weren't for you all. With an arts vibrancy score of 84, Muncie ranks among the most arts-engaged counties in the nation. That is something that we should all be proud of, and something that we can continue to grow together. Tonight, you can go to the Muncie Makers Market at Magic's until 8 p.m. You can make something at the design lab there. You can enjoy some pizza at the Guardian, or go to the Oasis bar and enjoy some Governor Davis Memorial Band blues. Tomorrow, there's also an event called An Evening at the Murray, where you can visit various artists' studios and shops for the holidays. See the postcards at the back of the table and the back of the room for more information. There's always a lot going on in Muncie. You can always find something happening. So thank you for everything you do to help make Muncie an even greater community through the arts and culture. As an expression of our appreciation, please stop by the check-in table on your way out. We do have some tote bags for you and chocolate bars